people have continued to discover it and realize like, oh, it was really an innovative show for that time. Like it was, nobody had really done a show like that.
And your role was incredible. A lot of people come up to you and talk about that specific role.
They do, which I think Friday Night Lights was the first time I did something where I realized like, oh, we can actually play characters on television. We have this amazing format to do this that can impact people.
Hello, everyone. I'm Henrik Lundqvist. Welcome to Club 30. We're coming to you from New York City. And to my left here, Jay Lydell.
Hello.
Good day today so far?
Great day. I mean, it's beautiful. And spring is here in New York. We got playoff sports.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, it's the best.
It's the best. And speaking of the garden, a few weeks ago, we ran into the guest we're having today on the show. And I watched her on so many different shows in my teenage years, playing on the road. She's been on so many great TV shows. And is there anyone that sticks out to you as your favorite?
Yeah, she is the fabric. She's played so many amazing, powerful moms. For me, Friday Night Lights.
Yes.
And then bookended with, all the way on the other side of the spectrum, White Lotus season 1. Awesome.
Two very good. Very good. Yeah, I remember watching Friday Night Lights on the road. I guess, when I try to think of what I was doing before you had an iPad.
Yeah.
Watching shows. I mean, it kills time so good when you're traveling. And before that, I guess I just listened to music. But anyways, now you can watch these amazing shows. And Friday Night Lights, I just enjoyed it because of the sports aspect, but also understanding of U.S. culture a little bit.
Yeah, especially the role that football plays in America.
Exactly.
Both as immigrants, that's new. That was new to me.
All right, it's time for us to bring on Connie Britton, great actress. She spent a lot of time here in New York. She's actually shooting a project right now.
I'm excited for this one.
Let's do it. She's a 5-time Emmy nominee, the star of some of our favorite TV shows over the years, and she's a frequent visitor at Madison Square Garden. Welcome to Club 30, Connie Britton.
Thank you.
Thanks
so
for being here.
here.
A couple months ago, me and Jay were talking to our buddy Taylor Kitsch, and your name came up, and he had so many good things to say about you. And then we saw you at the Garden a few weeks later. It's like, okay, right. Connie needs to come on Club 30.
Yeah.
Has Taylor been on here?
No,
he has not yet.
He's threatening to.
We gotta get him.
No, it's happening. But he's been in Portugal for the last couple months, right?
Yeah, Budapest. Yeah, filming his Amazon show there.
But anyways, we're so happy you're here, connecting the dots, and so Taylor and you worked together on Friday Night Lights.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That was, it feels like just yesterday that we did that show. And yet now I'm realizing it's like, 15 years or something since we shot that. But Taylor's the best. And I just adore him. He is such a great, you guys know, he is like salt of the earth, the best person. And we actually shot Friday Night Lights, obviously, but we also traveled to Africa together. We both, I had been doing work in Africa for a long time, and he became really interested in that, and so we took a trip to Africa together for this organization called the African Children's Choir. I don't know if he's told you guys about that. We're both still really involved with it, but I just feel, for me, that feels like such a great representation of just what a big heart he has, because he just wanted to look outside of his own world and see how he could help kids, and he continues to do that. He's the best.
Yeah.
So shooting that show, though, you said 15 years ago? And it was like 9 seasons you did, right? Am I right?
No, 5.
It was only 5?
5, yeah. Only 5, I know.
I felt like 9.
And you know what? You know what's crazy is it started off on NBC, and it kind of was struggling a little bit. I think they didn't really know how to promote it, because it was like, is it a show about football? Is it a show about teenagers? And it was so much more than all of that. And so, I remember when the show first started, there was like, just like a big sort of splashy billboard of like a bunch of teenagers and like a football, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think people were sort of like, who cares? So it was and then it moved to DirecTV. DirecTV kind of saved it. And that was early days, like pre-streaming.
Right.
DirecTV was sort of the streaming option. So we got to do 5 seasons, but it was really something that has emerged over time. People have continued to discover it and realize like, oh, it was really an innovative show for that time. Like it was, nobody had really done a show like that.
And your role was incredible. A lot of people come up to you and talk about that specific role.
They do, which I think Friday Night Lights was the first time I did something where I realized like, oh, we can actually play characters on television. We have this amazing format to do this that can impact people and that can make people think about themselves. And, I've had so many people still every day come up and say, Tami Taylor meant so much to me, or your relationship with your daughter, or your relationship with Coach,
It's true. Like I think I started watching it because of Taylor, and I wanted to support my friend. But then when I think your relationship with Coach made me miss my family a little bit. Like I'd been away from home since I was a little kid. I went to boarding school, and just that family unit in high school was so different and so, I don't know, comforting to watch. I loved it.
How does that feel as an actor when people relate to you as the character? It's like, oh, you helped me so much. And you're like,
do you know what? For me, it's actually the greatest accomplishment and the greatest honor, really, because I actually now in my life, largely because of that experience, realize like, oh, how can you make a difference in the world? Like I can actually take characters and play roles that will make people think about themselves, and specifically women. I'm really interested in like letting women know how powerful they can be, but regular women, not like you have to be some superwoman. Like we can all find that in ourselves. And so it's really actually valuable and meaningful to me when people say, oh, you made a difference in my life. Because it's like, oh, we actually can do that in this great platform that we have. We're all so fortunate to be able to do what I do for a living. I mean, come on, I'm the luckiest person in the world. And so to actually do that in a way that's meaningful to people is important to me. So I love that. I do remember the first time somebody came up to me and they're like, oh my God, I wish you were my mom. And I was like, that's horrifying. I don't really want to hear that, but cool. Thanks. Yeah.
But okay, so when you pick roles, you read a script, is that back of your mind now? Like the impact you can have?
Yeah. Yeah. Like pretty much now, anything that I do, I want to have some element of that. Like, and also for me personally, I want to find a way to do it in differently than I've done it before. So, I want to find another way to show a woman that's complicated and flawed and all of these things, but still finding her power and her voice. And so, because I also, for me, I think as an actor, I always want to feel challenged and like I'm taking a risk and like I'm doing something that's a little uncomfortable and, outside the box.
I wanted to touch on this later in the show, but it feels the right moment now. Nicole in White Lotus was, it could not be more different of a mom character from Tami.
Yeah.
And like at times I was cheering for her because she was so relatable yet almost so cringeworthy at the same time.
Totally.
And like that character in the moment for our country of like this mom struggling to find connection with her, teenage young adult daughter.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because when I first read that, and Mike White, who created White Lotus, who was the brilliant genius behind that show, we talked about the character a lot because I was like, my number one rule is never judge your characters. You cannot like look at them from the outside and be like, oh, I'm playing a villain or I'm playing an asshole or whatever. It's like, you cannot do that. I always have to look at my characters from inside, and as far as I'm concerned, every character, even if you're playing the worst villain, is trying to find something that feels true for them. And so with that one, I was kind of concerned because I'm like, gosh, she's really going to come off like, such a blowhard and whatever. But I was playing it like all she's trying to do is be a woman, a successful woman in the world, and relate to her husband and relate to her kids. But she's got all this cultural baggage that is like making her husband hate her and her kids hate her and making her kind of just really not do a great job of it. But I cannot tell you, even with that one, the number of women who came up to me and they're like, oh my God, I related to that character so much. Because it was like, even though she's making a lot of mistakes, many successful women struggle with these issues, with feeling like they're, not being a good mom, or not being able to relate to their husband, or, diminishing their husband in some way, all those things. So that was a really fun one to do, and very kind of complex to figure out.
Yeah.
How to make her human.
But it makes me think of the different roles you play and the different reactions you get from people. Obviously, when you play characters that people love,
right,
that's one thing. But when you play characters that people like, I really hate that person. Like, does that affect what people say when they come? So even in White Lotus, people appreciate sides of her. But has there been a character you played over the years where people come up, it's like, I really don't like you because you were awful, like as a person in that movie?
I will say I haven't played a lot of villains. I'm kind of like,
You're too nice.
Like the straight up, like, well, but the thing, it is interesting because like I think played differently or by a different actress. Like I think Nicole could have come off much more just like straight up, like, I can't stand her.
Right.
You know what I mean? But going back to MSG, so I was at a Knicks game a couple weeks ago and sat next to Tracy Morgan, who's hilarious. And, if I'm sure you've spent time with Tracy, and like you sit next to him in a Knicks game and he's telling you his life story. Right. And so he's like talking to us about like, his mom and all this stuff. And then he says, Did you see that show, Dirty John? And I'm like, Tracy, that was me. I knew you. Oh my God. And he's like literally out of the blue talking about this because it's about this sort of woman who is, totally taken for granted. It's like really goes through this horrible experience with this basically the sociopath. It's based on a podcast. It's based on a true story in this woman's life. But Tracy has an experience in his life that made him really relate to that show. So here I've got Tracy Morgan saying to me, like, that really was meaningful for me to hear that. But that show, I had so many people come up to me and be like, that she's so stupid. Why was she so stupid to be in a relationship with that man? And I'm like, she's not stupid. There are so many women who you get sucked in. Like if you were like, have somebody who's a sociopath like coming after you, like we all have our flaws and we all have everything. So, that was an experience with that character where I really tried very hard to not have her come across, because she's actually a really brilliant woman. And a lot of people have gotten into situations like she was in. So anyway, that was one that was sort of close to that, but I always try really hard to let everybody see all the different elements and dynamics of what makes us human, and that we all have flaws, and so sometimes we get stuck in that.
How long does it take you to figure out the character? Like in terms of, I assume you read the script, you try to understand the person, but is it a lot of prep that goes into get to that place?
It depends. Generally, yeah. Like for me, I try to really just immerse myself in the script. And if there's a specific world in the script, I try to just get as much information where I can feel at home in that space. And it depending on the character. I mean, going back to Friday Night Lights, Texas was such a huge part of that. And I'd done the movie of Friday Night Lights and spent a lot of time in Texas. And it's funny, actually, Pete Berg texted me yesterday out of the blue. He's, I guess, recoloring something for Friday Night Lights, or and he like sent me a picture of like myself in the movie like years and years ago. Yeah. But for when we started shooting that, Kyle Chandler and I actually drove across country from LA to Austin. By the time we got to Austin, we were like, everybody should do this. This is the way that you can like integrate yourself into this world and like shift out of the LA world into, we're now in like small town Texas. Austin isn't exactly a small town even back then. So things like that, whatever it takes to really immerse myself in the circumstances and the situation, I'll try to do whatever I can for that.
Fascinating.
And to me, I just want to say, like, watching Friday Night Lights, for me as a Swede coming here, it was entertaining, but it was also educational. Yeah. It was like the understanding of the importance of football in the U.S., these small towns, how people live for it. And Europe is more soccer. Here you have American football and how it dictates people's lives and weekends. Yeah. It was just, I really enjoyed it. It felt like, okay, I'm watching America right now.
Does it equate to what it's like for soccer for you guys?
I would say soccer is the biggest sport in Sweden. Yeah. But I would say football is bigger here than soccer in Sweden.
Interesting.
If you go down south in Europe, Italy, Spain, soccer is everything. But in Sweden, I wouldn't say we don't have days where it's all about soccer. Like here, you have football.
It's in Canada, though, maybe the analog is hockey. Growing up in Canada, American football here, especially in the South, is hockey across the country.
Yeah.
You can turn on TSN and watch Pee-wee hockey. And when there's no world, it's crazy.
Yeah, they love their hockey.
They love their hockey up there. Connie, your approach to understanding a character, you said you try to understand their complexities from the inside. That seems like a pretty valuable tool for building personal relationships too.
Yeah.
Like, how do you, that seems like a powerful way to go about the world. Is that?
I guess it is. Yeah. I mean, I think I try to do that pretty much across the board in life. I try to just look at everybody from the inside, and I try to function in my life from what feels true to me and not get too hung up on, I mean, especially as an actress, I was never the actress that was like, everything has to be external. I kind of wanted to be a chameleon. And so, especially as you get older as an actress, I'm really grateful that I think about it that way, because I have actress friends who, as we age, it's really daunting, because if you think about yourself externally all the time, that's hard to keep up with, right. And so, but I do think in terms of relationships and friendships, I always want to get to the real, Yeah. So that just feels like that's real life, for me. That makes life happy.
I like that. I guess I should stop thinking about Hank as the villain and try to understand him from inside more. I'll work on that.
Is this his villain role? Is that?
Yeah, this is his command and control. Yeah. No.
Yeah. No, but it's always good, I guess, to try to understand the inside.
Totally. Yeah. And I think we were pretty well in sync on that. I was just having fun at your expense.
But Connie, for you, it's like, growing up, was there a moment that like, I want to do acting? Was there, or how did it start?
Well, when I look back, I realized I'm like, oh gosh, I was always like writing, like making plays and playing dress up with my sister and my cousin, and then later kind of writing little plays, and we'd perform them for our family. I grew up in a pretty small town in Virginia, and our public high school had a great drama department. And I wasn't going to the high school at the time, but I went and saw a production of West Side Story. I'll never forget. And I was like, I have to go to the high school. I have to go here. And so I switched over to the high school, and I went to this really good public high school, thank goodness, that had an excellent theater program and just immerse myself in it. You know, I remember talking on the phone with my best friend, like late at night and being, you know, we talk about what we would dream. If we could do anything we wanted in life, what we would dream of doing. I'm like, well, I would dream of being an actress. That's my dream. And she's like, well, I would dream of being a ski bum. So it was kind of like that equivalent. It was sort of like both things seemed as unrealistic.
Sure.
And my parents were really, the greatest gift they felt like they could ever give my sister and me was an education. And I knew I was going to go to college, and that was, you know, so I went to college and kind of let it go for a little while, and then just kept coming back to it and didn't major in it in college, but did a ton of theater. And then by the time I graduated from college, I was like, I got to try. And so I came to New York and went to the Neighborhood Playhouse, which is a 2-year acting program, and just started pounding the pavement. And do you guys know Eddie Burns?
I know of him.
I feel like you guys should know Eddie Burns.
That was your Brothers McMullen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my big break.
Favorite movies.
Yeah. That was literally like, you know, I'm just pounding the pavement in New York, whatever. And every week I would send in pictures and resumes to whoever. Yeah. Like there's a, I think it still exists, a magazine called Backstage Magazine. And you would just send in pictures and resumes for whatever little like college film audition or whatever. Anyway, and he had an ad in Backstage and I answered it, and then I went and auditioned for him, and he put me in this little movie that he was doing, and we shot it like whenever he had film stock. I mean, there was no money. That was a really important educational experience for me. It was the first time I ever did anything resembling a movie, because my background was all theater. And Eddie was just this budding filmmaker. He didn't really know what he was doing either, but he also had an innate talent and a dream. And I loved working. He set the bar for me because he wrote and was directing his own movie, and it was very collaborative. We would get together at night after we all finished our day jobs and rehearse the movie and like drink beers and like improvise scenes, and really created the movie together and the relationships in the movie together, which I think made all the difference. And so for me, and Friday Night Lights had a lot of that too, it really established that's the way I like to work. I love to work in that really collaborative way. And, you know, it was, I think because of all of that movie, that little teeny tiny movie that had no money behind it, you know, Eddie was a PA on Entertainment Tonight, and they were interviewing Robert Redford, and he pulls the videotape out of his backpack and says, Mr. Redford, I'm an independent filmmaker. Will you take a look at this? And Redford looked at it, and it got into the Sundance Film Festival.
Wow. Is that the moment where you realize, okay, I think this is going to work? Like
what the moment was, the movie went to the Sundance Film Festival. I almost didn't make it to the festival, but I made it at the last night. We all bunked in this like really like shoddy like rental apartment. I remember I was in a bunk bed with Eddie's brother Brian. Like I was on the top bunk, he was on the bottom, and we went to, they had a ceremony, an awards ceremony, and we were in some like backup room. And then at the last minute, they brought us in, and we sat in the very back row of this awards ceremony, because we were just like, I mean, we had no cachet at all. And the movie won the grand jury prize at Sundance. Oh, wow. And that was the moment. We were all such like newbies. And that was the moment I was like, you know, I remember looking at, Maxine Bonds, who was in the movie with me, and we said, I think nothing's ever going to be the same after this. It was wild? A really like very profound moment, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you seen it, Brothers McMullen?
No, I haven't.
Put it on your list. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, I mean, and by the way, it was a tiny movie, but it was also, that was really a moment in time where independent film was really independent film. And that's what because I got to be friends with Redford later, and he would say to me, like, that's the kind of films that I wanted to really be supporting and bringing up with Sundance. So it was a really exciting time.
So cool.
Yeah.
What a story.
I know.
So after that movie, your career kind of took off. It was.
Yeah, I mean, well, I moved out to LA for the first time and lived with like my mother's roommate from college and just started trying to get an agent. And, but yeah, people watched the movie and I started like being able to, I got an agent and.
What year is this?
This is 96.
96.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to remember, one of my favorite shows when I still lived in Sweden was Spin City.
Yeah.
I love that show.
Well, that was right around this time.
Right.
And that was my first TV show, my first series regular on a TV show. And I mean, let me tell you something. I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I learned on the job like you wouldn't believe, but also I had the most amazing teachers. I mean, Michael J. Fox and...
So Mike, I mean, every time I meet him, he's so nice. How is he to work with?
Oh, he's amazing. I mean, are you kidding? I grew up watching Michael J. Fox. And so to suddenly be on a show with him, I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And it was a sitcom. So, and he basically created the model and the standard for that in terms of how I grew up. And so I really just learned so much from him, and everybody in that cast was so talented and so wonderful. And so that was a really great first experience. And I learned a lot on my feet, but it was incredible and a great New York experience too.
Yeah. Was there a time where you had to make ends meet between Sundance Moment and Spin City? Or was there a scrap? Obviously you lived with your mom's college roommate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? I did. I mean, I'm trying to even remember kind of how I made ends meet, but like I remember there was, I was teaching aerobics. That's what I was doing.
Oh, wow.
That's what I would run around New York City teaching aerobics. And then when I got to LA, I had some money saved. And I was also determined. And I think, and my parents helped me out a little bit too, but I think I was also determined, like, I'm doing this. I am going to support myself and I'm doing this. And so that became a big priority for me.
Yeah. I was just, when you said, you watched Michael J. Fox and then suddenly here you are working with him and makes me think of like in hockey, NHL, I would say every player have this moment when they enter the league and suddenly you're playing against your idols. Because when you enter the league, you're about 20.
Sure.
And all the players that are 30 and above, they were in the league when you were 10 years old. So obviously you're watching them every day. And just like that, you're in the locker room with these guys and you look up to them. And it's like, when do you break or how do you break that fandom or whatever you call it of like, okay, we're teammates now. I'm going to play against these guys that I watched for years.
Sure.
And I'm sure with actors, it must happen a lot too, where you grow up and watching these movies and suddenly you're on a set and it's like, okay, I'm going to have a scene here with my idol. Right? So do you have a couple of those moments?
It's crazy. I want to like ask you about that, but I'm going to answer your question because actually I'm doing something right now. I'm shooting in New York, and I'm working with Robert De Niro.
Oh yeah.
And, quintessential New Yorker, and he's doing his first ever show on television. It's a limited series for Netflix, called 0 Day, but I mean, I'm going to go do a scene with a Black Hawk helicopter and De Niro this afternoon. You know what I mean? And I'm still, I know. And I'm still kind of like, how did I get here? And I mean, even now I've been doing this for so many years. It's still, there are still people like that just blow my mind. And I'm like, I can't believe I get to work with this idol of mine. You
have to pinch yourself at times.
Yeah, and it's still, I mean, we've now been shooting together for about 5 months. And, I still, every time I see him on set, I'm like, hi, how are you?
You call him Bob?
I do. I call him Bob. And, he's the best. He has such an amazing work ethic. I think that's one of my biggest takeaways from him is like, wow, after all these years, he could just like sit back and be like, maybe man, he works so hard and shows up and he's doing it all in this show. So I'm just kind of, that's my example. One
Super
of my,
cool.
my most recent example of that.
Of all the people you work with throughout the years, is there anyone that stands out as very memorable for whatever work ethic or just one of your favorites? Do you have one that you work with?
I mean, I have I would say De Niro is probably like one of the biggest in terms of that, with that sort of idea. I did a movie called This Is Where I Leave You that had such an incredible cast. And, I mean, just some of my also just favorite actors who I look up to so much. I mean, Jason Bateman, Tina Fey, but Jane Fonda was in that movie. And I remember I was so intimidated. I was actually, and Adam Driver, who I was playing his girlfriend in the movie. And I remember the first time I rehearsed with, we were doing a big group scene and I walked in with Adam into the scene we were rehearsing. And I was so nervous and Jane was sitting there. And after we cut on the rehearsal, she looked at me and she goes, "You look like a showgirl." And I was like, oh my God, what does she mean by that? I don't know if that's a good thing or if it's a terrible thing. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, and it turned out it was a compliment.
Oh, good.
And we became great friends. And she is, across the board in everything that she does. Obviously, she is just an incomparable actress. But the things that she does out in the world, her level of commitment in the world and to fighting for climate, is just something I've never seen. I mean, she has more energy than anybody I know, truly. And she's, I believe, 86 or 87.
Wow.
And she still goes out every single day and is working toward helping with the climate. And it's just, she just really blows my mind. Wow. So yeah, I would say Jane.
If you know you're shooting with someone that you really look up to, do you try to spend some time with them before to break the ice, or do you don't really have time with that? You just walk in from your trailer and it's like, oh, let's go, action, and you haven't really talked to these people sometimes? Or how does it work?
That is sort of a traditional, that is a funny thing. Like it's sort of the joke that if you have like a sex scene in a movie or something, of course that's going to be the first scene you shoot. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, hi, how are you? Okay, let's go ahead and do this. So it does sometimes feel that way where it's a luxury to have time in advance to spend with your castmates. And, on this show, I came in and just was able to spend a little bit of time with De Niro before we started, which was great. But yeah, any extra time that you get so that at least for me, so that I can really kind of immerse myself with the person and understand how they work a little bit, because even if you're playing a character, their humanity still always comes out. And so if you're playing a character that's supposed to know them really well, I want to kind of tap into what that is.
Yeah. Like for hockey, you can spend weeks in training camp at the rink, but you don't really get to know guys until you hang out away from the rink. So the best way every fall, new teammates, you need a team dinner, you need to be out, because people let their guards down. It's very different and to get to know people when you're at work.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like you get to know them a little bit.
Yeah.
But it goes way quicker when you remove work and you go out together as a group and you really start to understand each other. And so the best way is always to have a great team party early on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or driving across the country with
Or driving across. Exactly. Yeah. And I will say with Friday Night Lights, we all relocated to Austin, everybody in that cast. And so it just became, we would be shooting, but then we would go out at night together. We would explore the city. We had the best time. And I do think that, because we were really trying to create such an intimacy with that whole group, because it was such a small town. And that helped. Yeah, that always helps if you can do that. Same with This Is Where I Leave You. We were shooting on location in this house. And so between takes, we would always go up stairs and have this. We were just like all hanging out in this bedroom together, and there must have been 7 or 8 of us, and we just would hang and chat and make each. I mean, that cast was such a funny cast, so we would just like crack each other up, and it was the best, and that helps a lot.
Yeah.
So does it change? We talked earlier about White Lotus, 1 season. How many episodes?
White Lotus?
Yeah.
8 to 10.
8 or something?
Oh, we had, I think it was 6.
6,
it was
maybe.
6, yeah.
Okay, so does that change? Because then I guess it's very intense. It's only 6 episodes versus working a project that's,
Seasons
a few
long.
years.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, I mean, by the way, White Lotus, another example, I mean, that was during COVID.
Right.
We were the only people at the 4 Seasons in Maui shooting that show together. So that was a real bonding experience.
Oh, wow.
Although, because it was COVID, we were actually not allowed to hang out that much because we were still, I mean, it was the height of COVID. There were no vaccines yet. It was a kind of scary time, but it was a real great, amazing bonding experience. But yeah, I think with White Lotus or with the show that I'm doing now, 0 Day, they're both limited series, and it's still a 6-month shoot, which is a pretty long shoot for 6 episodes. But it is different because it kind of gives you what I love about series television going on for years and years is that the world can really evolve, and like we do in life, your character can evolve and they're experiencing changes and growth or loss or whatever. And a show that's done right, a series that's done right, like that's such an exciting thing to be able to play and to do. So a limited series has those elements. It's just in a more concise way, but it still is a little bit more expansive than just a film. So I do love both. Both are really fun.
Thinking of challenge, you talked earlier about challenging yourself. Between 2012 and 2018, you played the country star.
Yes.
Raina James.
Raina James.
It's called Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Were you actually singing yourself?
Yes.
So you're a good singer.
I'm a fine singer.
Fine.
No,
really
that was a very big challenge, and I look back on it and I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity. But gosh, I did not know what I was getting myself into. I mean, I kind of grew up singing and loved singing, and that when that opportunity came around, Callie Corey created the show with RJ Cutler, and T-Bone Burnett was doing the music, who's
Legend.
amazing. And I just thought, when am I ever going to have the opportunity to do this? So I had all the best people supporting, but I had a very steep learning curve in terms of trying to, and I also felt like, okay, I don't have to have like the best voice, because a lot of, especially in country music, it's really about authenticity. Yeah. So I was like, I'm just going to try to bring as much authenticity to my voice as I can. So that was sort of how I was thinking about it, but it was definitely a steep learning curve.
I'm sure.
To try to.
And were the final vocals all you, or mixed?
Yeah.
Wow.
No. It was all me, and I do think as with anything, like I think we were talking before we started that it's nice to do something. It's you use different muscles, especially as we get older, and that was definitely a different muscle for me, but I think I improved over the years.
I mean, you were nominated for Emmy and Golden Globe.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know.
I feel like you crushed it.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they were taking pity on me. But no, but that was a cool experience, just to be able to be in Nashville. And I met so many amazing friends there, and such a warm community of people, and a really cool musical world.
Yeah, it's a great time.
And I'm trying to relate to, as an athlete, for us, it's pretty easy to define our work. It's like you win or you lose. It's pretty black and white. Like you see the numbers. For an actor, actress, it's a little harder to define it. But so when do you feel like you're winning? Is it like getting nominated, or is it getting the roles you want?
That's a great question. Yeah, because it is so much more subjective. I honestly feel like I'm winning when I feel really enlivened by what I'm doing. When I feel like what I'm doing is inspiring and I'm feeling challenged, but also like kind of in like, I think this might be something similar to being an athlete where you kind of feel like you're in the zone. You know that feeling, and you're able to discover new things about if I'm discovering new things in a character that I didn't know about before, as a person, I don't know. It's a very kind of strange experience as an actor, but that's probably for me the biggest feeling of success and reward. And the getting the award stuff for sure is it's exciting. It's also always shocking and exciting, and it's like a club you want to be in, but also I also have very clear perspective that it's for sure flawed, and there are so many elements that play into it, and you can't let the happiness come from there.
Right.
That's the key.
Yeah.
It can't. I mean, and I don't know if you would relate to that from a sports standpoint. Like, are you only happy when you win? I mean, maybe, yeah.
Well, I think that was part of me. It was good and bad at the same time. But I made a change in my life. I can't rely on, being successful or winning to be happy. And it's a fair question. Like, I think it really pushed me.
Yeah.
But also I was the times when we were not winning, I was not very happy, and it was a tough living.
Yeah.
Living that way. It was such a roller coaster.
Well, also there's so much pressure on you as an athlete to win. Yeah. You've got all these fans, and it's your job, it's your work. And that to me feels very stressful.
I feel like the big change when you retire, when you play sports, you get constant feedback. Every move you get like a quick feedback. Okay.
From everybody.
Well, and even for myself. Okay, I stopped that shot. Good. I did that right. And then I move over here. Yeah, that was good. So every second it's like, yes, no. And then I move on to new part of my life where like I do so many things where I don't really know if this was good or not. You know what I'm saying?
That's interesting. But it's like a new bar.
That's sports. Every second you get a yes or no.
Yeah.
Should I be giving you more direct feedback?
Maybe.
He would probably feel more comfortable if you did.
You missed a spot on the dishes over here, Hank.
Yeah. No, but I think I'm trying still to just be comfortable with not knowing and not having constant feedback. Because I feel like it's a more flow to life now.
Yeah, that's really,
like that, which is
really
nice. I'm still learning, but I'm getting there.
That flow state, Connie, when you really feel like you're in the moment and like really lit up.
Yeah,
I know that process is important for you. Like there must have been games where you lost and you felt like I nailed it today, or no? Even if you lost and you play like,
that's a great question.
Yeah, definitely games where you feel like you did everything you're supposed to do. You played at a high level, but you didn't get the result.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like, again, sports might be easier because you can break it down so much in every save, every movement. But in a film, like how do you...
Do you watch edits? Like, do you get that like kind of direct? No,
I don't. You can't. I could. I don't like to. Again, going back to the thing of working from the inside out. If I'm watching edits, then I feel like I'm watching externally, and I'd rather not do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather not have that perspective while I'm working. Yeah.
I mean, will you act for the rest of your life? Will you be like De Niro? Like
I mean, listen, I gotta say, I look at that guy. He's 80 years old. He just had a kid. You know, I'm like, I don't think I would be doing. I mean, he is working his ass off. Like, I'm coming in and out on this show. He is in just about every frame of the thing. He's showing up every single day, long hours. It's a very ambitious show. And he's doing it. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be doing that when I'm 80.
Is there anything else you want to do?
Relax.
Relax.
Travel. I love to travel.
Yeah.
But yeah, but no, to answer your question, I have a production company, and I'm now really interested in developing shows, because kind of getting back to the question about what makes you happy or feel successful, you know, I do think that it is sort of an interesting thing to look at what works, what shows speak to the culture, and what shows get into the zeitgeist. And I've been really fortunate because I've been able to be on a few of those shows, and I've watched the masters, like Pete Berg creating Friday Night Lights. Like, that was at the time incredibly innovative, the way that we shot that show, the whole sort of vision of that show. Then I worked with Ryan Murphy, and I did the first season of American Horror Story. And at that time I was like, and Ryan Murphy also at that, you know, he'd just come off of Glee, and he was really he is a very innovative thinker in terms of creating television. And at that time I was like, what is this America? I don't even like horror, and this is crazy, and there's a rubber man in it, and that's gotta go. And but like, Ryan had a vision of how to take the horror genre and kind of flip it for television and make it feel like it was something that nobody had ever seen before. And now look, it's this huge, massive success that felt so. I feel like it's been really, I really love to sort of study what gets into the culture and what gets into the zeitgeist, because again, I do think that we can impact that conversation. And so as I go forward, I would like to develop more shows and get things out there that feel like interesting conversation, and that's an exciting prospect, and I hope to be able to do that for a while. And I want to keep acting too, for sure, but I don't know if I'm going to be doing it when I'm 80.
And you want to relax yourself.
And I want to relax.
Yeah. We're good at that. What is Yobi into these days? Like, what is he?
Soccer. He is obsessed with soccer. He just loves it so much. He's on his, on like the AYSO program. And then he also is on his school team. And we've gotten to be huge LAFC fans. And so, we go to those games religiously. But it's really, he spends, he's 13 now, and a lot of kids are on the internet and doing what. Yobi just goes back and rewatches soccer plays, and then watches like commentary on soccer plays. He really loves it so much. He loves really all sports, but it's really the soccer that he just, he'll go out in the backyard and just like kick the soccer ball for hours by himself.
It's so great when you see your kids be passionate about something.
Yeah, I know.
I love it. Doesn't matter what level, as long as they're just committed and love what they're doing. I love that.
That's what you want. You really want that for them. That's kind of all I hope for him, is to find the thing that he loves and to be able to like keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. So does he appreciate your work? Does he know? Like,
he honestly, I don't think he's ever really watched anything that I've done. And he actually, even though he's 13, he still loves to watch animated stuff and whatever. And he's always like, Mom, why don't you ever do kids stuff? like Spy Kids movies and stuff like that. And I it's true. I wish that I had more. That's my next thing. I need to like do something that's more sort of kid centric.
Yeah.
But he's aware that I do this, and I think he's almost Friday Night Lights ready.
Oh, cool.
Like he's kind of a young 13, Friday Night Lights has a lot of like teenagers making out with each other and blah, blah, blah that he wouldn't care about. But he did just watch Ted Lasso. Oh. So I think he's becoming aware of what I do, but
Well, listen, we don't want to hold you. I know you have a busy day.
You're
going to jump in a
fun.
helicopter with Robert De Niro.
That's right.
Just like our afternoon, right?
What a day. I'm going to pick up my kids from school. That's what I'm doing. But listen, we're so happy that you came by. Really
thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And great vibes.
I'm sure we'll see you at the Garden down the road.
Yes.
Yeah. Whenever you're back in town. You're heading back to LA, right?
Tomorrow morning, yeah.
Well,
thank you so much.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you hanging with us.
Fun.
Thanks.
I loved it. Thanks, guys.
Big thanks to Connie Britton for coming on to Club 30 today. Wow, interesting afternoon for her.
Yeah. Blackhawk with Bob De Niro. Just no big deal.
I mean, wow. I wish we could join in on that.
Yeah,
sounds awesome.
Just watch. I've never really been on a set of a film or a show like that to watch. I would actually like to do that. We should have asked her.
Yeah, I've been just in studios, never like a big production outside.
Right.
But it's funny. We never really got into it, but shooting in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like such a production.
Right. The
logistics. Yeah. Shutting down streets and just the amount of people you need to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, I look forward to see this show they're shooting right now.
0 day.
But takeaways with Connie today.
Yeah, for me, she talked a lot about her approach and her immersive approach to acting, which involves like kind of relating to and getting to know her co-stars. But I think that's a two-way street. What I was thinking of, and I didn't say, was that, well, those people have to want to hang out with you too. And I thought it was interesting that, like, I can only imagine, like, who wouldn't want to work across from Connie Britton? Like, her vibes are just so good, and she's just so, makes you feel so comfortable.
Yeah. She's so nice.
Yeah.
Very nice person. Totally. And the fact that she spends a lot of time, understanding her characters from the inside.
Yeah.
I think, and to your point during the conversation, it helps with relationships and how to meet people, understand people probably.
Yeah.
I really enjoy this. And now, we're going to put a lot of pressure on Taylor.
That's right. He's on the clock.
He's on the clock.